of Milo Yiannopoulos right now on his honeymoon. This is the Militant Moderate Podcast. I'm your host, Paul Michael Boland. Who is Milo Yiannopoulos? Self-described troll, and he's come on the scene as a public speaker, a culture commentator, but he gets labeled as the leader of the alt-right. Really, whenever somebody does that, they really haven't done their homework, because the alt-right is supposed to be this organization of homophobic, anti-Semitic, racist jackasses. You see Milo, who is a half-Jewish, remarkably gay man, now has a black husband. Yeah, a scene from the Chappelle Show when the blind black man was a white supremacist, and he took off his hood and showed all the other white supremacists. That I'm sure that a few, white supremacists met Milo and their head just freaking explode. Throw in the fact that he's also a Christian conservative libertarian. He's also on a green card here. The other half, he's half Jewish, half Greek. Eventually wants to immigrate to us. That's Milo. Now let's talk about what makes him controversial. Have you seen him with your eyes open? Last college tour was called the Dangerous Faggot Tour. Part of this tour y'all might have heard about is when Berkeley was set on fire about a year ago was because he wanted to speak there. Now, some of Milo's opinions, I understand, can be somewhat confusing. He does do a talk where he specifically says how gays should go back in the closet for the benefit of humanity. That, you might be getting your dandruff up by me saying that, but his rationale, and by no means am I endorsing this rationale because you'll see. His stance that gays should be going back in the closet because back in the 50s and 60s, gays were still breeding. They still had a wife. They still made children. And then they went off with Larry and camping in the mountains and had, stuff happening on fishing trips and things like that. I don't know, Brokeback Mountain thing. But they still had children. Now, with gays being out in the open, they're not breeding. They're adopting, absolutely, but their genetic code isn't passed on. And he also cites studies where he finds that gays are much more intelligent per capita than the general population. So by gays not reproducing, we are dumbing down America. I don't know if that's true. Tell me in the comments, what's true? What's screwed up about that statement? Because that's the thing about him. It's kind of screwed up, but there's some truth in there. He went back to Berkeley. I actually wanted to attend, but like everybody else, we couldn't find the tickets were available. And he wound up basically going there, speaking for about a half hour and leaving. There was this whole big thing that was supposed to happen over 3 days. Ann Coulter was supposed to speak. Steve Bannon was supposed to speak. That guy hardly speaks as it is. So I kind of wanted to hear what that guy had to say. But he will be embarking on his next college tour, which is called Troll Academy. Yeah. So he basically wants to go out there, and he's all about free speech, and he has a point of free speech. And yes, his speech is designed to piss people off. When he says that, would you rather your daughter have cancer or feminism? Being that I've gone through cancer, and you don't want to have anybody have cancer. Does he necessarily have a point about some third-wave feminisms that say that all men are rapists? Yeah, pretty much. I'm not a rapist, no matter what you've heard. I have no convictions.
Should we use that?
Probably not. If you do, you got to put the probably not in there, though. I don't agree with Milo on a lot of things because, for one, I'm not a conservative. And I don't think I'd ever be comfortable calling Trump daddy. I can show you an old interview where him and Sean Spicer, of all people, were actually talking, and neither one of them wanted Trump to be president at the time. And I didn't want Trump to be president, but here we go. Some people call Trump president. Some people call Trump an asshole. Milo likes to call him daddy. There's right and there's wrong, and then there's just creepy. And that's where we're at with this. And of course, when Milo does it, he does it in an accent like this. So he calls Trump daddy, which makes it that much creepier. People in the middle of the alt-left basically saying he's a purveyor of hate speech. I wouldn't say that his speech is hateful. I'd say it's problematic as hell, but I would say it's not necessarily hateful. But look at it from his point of view when he goes off on anti-immigration runs. He points this out So these are his numbers. He says that there are 100 million Muslims in the world that live within the borders of countries where the crime of being gay inside those countries is death. So when he says, would we want to bring people in from those countries? Can we maybe pump the brakes and maybe just at least make sure that they're not going to take any what we would define as hate with them when they come into this country? Milo also came to a little bit of notoriety, I think about a year or two ago when the new Ghostbusters movie came out, because he was banned from Twitter from saying that Leslie Jones looked like one of his ex-boyfriends. Remember, he's got a thing for black guys. He's literally said that there's no one out there that has done more from the black community than him, mostly on his back. His words, not mine. Also, what Milo is kind of known for, there was a three-way speech held at the UMass University. It was between Christian conservative host Steven Crowder, a old school feminist as Christina Hoff Sommers, and then Milo Yiannopoulos. This is the one where we had the Trigglypuff thing happen, and you more or less saw a lot of basically Steven Crowder kind of like took that over and took Trigglypuff to task. That's your face of feminism, ladies. Goodbye, erections. Won't be knowing it anymore. So to wrap things up, Milo Yiannopoulos.
Grab the dildo and I'll blur it out. Like, make sure
it's on the floor next to you over there. We really wanted to use a dildo right here, but the camera guy will not touch it and hand it to me, and it's just too far. I would really use a napkin to pick it up.
Yeah.
Yeah, not awkward at all, right? So, in closing, Mr. Yiannopoulos, you have every right to say what you want. Free speech, it can be hate speech. But you, Mr. Yiannopoulos, don't have to be that big a jackass, okay? Just be a little nicer. That's all I'm saying. Jesus Christ, what the hell's wrong with me? I really don't have an explanation for this. Tune in next week. And the cameraman is toast. Okay. So what I'm doing homophobic and racist? I'm like enjoying holding this thing like way too much. I don't know where that came from. Can we cut now? Is that okay? It got weird. I'm sorry. Milo Yiannopoulos, human troll or human conundrum? You be the judge. Tell me in the comments below. It's gonna hurt. Hi, this is the Militant Moderate Podcast. I'm your host, Paul Michael Boland, and it's time for the most awful joke of the week. A little boy wakes up in the middle of the night and walks into his parents' room and catches his parents having sex. The boy, traumatized by what he sees, immediately runs out of the room. Now, the mom immediately says to the dad, look, you better explain to your son what he just saw. He's probably going to have questions. Father kind of blew it off, but the mom's really adamant. It's like, look, no, you really need to go talk to him, okay? So the father begrudgingly agrees to go and talk to the little boy about what he had seen. As he's walking down the hallway to his son's room, he hears an empty thumping sound coming out of his son's room. Thump, 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 thump. The father, very, very confused, slams the door open and sees his son balls deep pounding the shit out of his grandmother's ball. And he's just really going to town on it. The father screams, "What the hell are you doing?" The boy replies, "Not so funny when it's your mom." This has been the Militant Moderate Podcast. I've been your host, Paul Michael Boland. Please click like and subscribe and comment down below about what a horrible human being I am. See you next week. Yeah, I feel dirty. This has been the Militant Moderate Podcast. I've been your host, Paul Michael Boland. Please click like and subscribe because that always gives us a hand. That always gives us a help.